Ongoing construction of One Vanderbilt. 2020 is when One Vanderbilt is going to be ready for everyone. It's 2019 now, April 2019. So very shortly. And here you see its next door neighbor is Grand Central. Can't have a better next door neighbor. We'll just take a closer look at One Vanderbilt. They're doing such a great job. It's rising up so quickly. Look at the finer detail of what's going on. A lot of work is getting put into it. Imagine the organization required to get all these steel beams here at just the right time in order for it to be ready for them to put up. It's just fascinating when you see this construction going on. How much planning went into this? Now, years and years of planning and acquiring the buildings, years and years of discussions with the city, and the lucky thing is SL Green, one of the largest real estate investment trusts in the US, is the developer of this project. So they have a lot of time on their hands, and this is going to be a trophy property for SL Green. So probably 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they can sell this for a really great premium if they choose to sell it. A lot of times these real estate investment trusts, by developing a property and then selling it, they have a very good return on their property. And you can see in the distance some of the neighbors. That tall building with the spire, that's right near Times Square. That's the Bank of America building, but it's like 1 block away from Times Square, but a lot of people consider that the Times Square area. Interesting fact that's going to happen very soon is just as One Vanderbilt had a lot of extra rights to be built much, much higher than it normally should be, thanks to the city government allowing them to do that. They also allowed in the area around Grand Central for a lot of other buildings to be able to build in a very, very high way. Now this Grand Hyatt was originally one of the projects that Donald Trump made or created once he finished with Wharton Business School. And his father gave him some money in order to finish this project. But now the Dell family owns this building, and what they're going to do is they're going to put up a building probably an equal height to One Vanderbilt. Now you can just see how you have this hotel here, and if you put up a 100-story structure where this hotel is, there's a lot of added value to this site, and that's what they intend to do. And it's going to be a beautiful building to do that, and it's going to be on a whole city block. So it's going to be a magnificent job if it gets completed. And I think they're going to do it because the Dell family is teaming up with some real estate developers to put their plans into action. And you can see this is not far away from the United Nations. Like if you look in the distance, if you see the greenish building, that is the United Nations. So this will be a prime spot for any development. And this is where a lot of developers would really like this location. But what happens is you have to acquire the plot of land first. That's the most difficult job, because whoever owns it is really, really sharp, or the people who own property in New York are very sharp, and they're not going to give something away if they know there's a lot of value there, which is why the Dell family doesn't really want to part with this piece of land and this hotel that's right next to Grand Central, because they could put up a building 4 times the height of this hotel, the Grand Hyatt. But it's still in the discussion stages. They've not gotten any approvals, but it's amazing when you see potential developments like that. And you can see being right next to Grand Central is a really, really big plus. We can see the magnificent work they're doing on the first 10 stories. So much work is required. Now, they've already signed a lot of premier tenants, and I think the tenants like the owner of the building, SL Green. They have many, many buildings throughout the city. A lot of the tenants that have signed already have leases with SL Green in other locations, so they're very familiar with SL Green's management style, so they're very comfortable with SL Green. TD Waterhouse, a lot of other top firms have decided to be in this building. Now, what's really going on is a lot of these firms are moving from other locations and then moving into this building. And that's not like really that new firms are coming into New York. It's just reallocating the firms that are in New York into one of the taller buildings. But that's okay. It consolidates a lot of space. It's right next to Grand Central. Grand Central is connected to the transportation hubs on the west side that get people into New Jersey, get people into uptown New York, downtown New York, and Grand Central is like so convenient for everyone. Now, if we take a closer view, we can see how much work is being done on the interior. This usually requires a lot of work, the build out. You know, what is it going to be like? You know, how are you going to do the electrical work? How is the glass going to work? So it's critical, because people see the first 10 stories. They might not see the 50th story. They might not see the 80th story, but everyone's watching the ground floor. So there's a lot of extra work that's being put into the ground floor. So then if we get even closer, have a better view of all the efforts and labor that are being put into this ground floor. There's so many aficionados of architecture out there and of building out there that I'm sure they appreciate this close, detailed view of the ground floor to see how it's actually being done. Many different styles of doing the development on the ground floor. Many years ago, what developers like to do was put all the mechanicals, heating, air conditioning, in the basement. They don't do that anymore. They like to put it on the rooftop. But in this case, I question if they're going to do that, because 100 stories up is going to be way too high. So how they deal with the mechanicals in this building is going to be very fascinating, because it's one of those taller buildings. But I have confidence in SL Green, because they've dealt with so many other projects. They manage so many other locations. This should not be a challenge for them. Just a view of the entire building from this angle, so it gives everyone a different perspective to see the building by. still yet another angle to look at the ground floor. Now, this is right next to Grand Central. That's here, and that's the building, the Grand Hyatt, that's owned by the Dell family. And this building here is the MetLife building. So you can see this new development, One Vanderbilt, is going to be quite a development. You can see here the ground floor. This is just to give a different perspective for the ground floor. You can see how the crane that goes all the way off the roof or to the top is anchored here. It's just incredible when you see how they build these mega structures. How much planning must be involved and how much oversight from the city, the state, from everyone is involved. Now, since this is so close to Grand Central, so close to the subway lines, the MTA, the Metro North, you can bet many, many people want to have some oversight into this development, and they do. So that's why it takes so long for this development to get done. And you could take a view of the cladding on the exterior. Really a great job also. Just amazing when you see how they do all this. And they started putting up some of the glass for the first 10 stories. It's just amazing seeing all this. And all the buildings around here. They rezoned the whole area around Grand Central to allow for really tall buildings. So there's going to be a lot of changes going on in the next 10, 20, 30 years. A lot of people who own the buildings around here all of a sudden have hit the lottery because the city allowed them to build much taller buildings. Here from 42nd and Madison Avenue, we have a different perspective. You can see Grand Central right there in the center. And here just allows people to see a different view of One Vanderbilt. Amazing amount of work they're putting in on the ground floor and on like the top, on the bottom 10 floors. You can see the glass is already being put in there. And this, as I said, is Madison Avenue. So it's going to be an ideal location for the building. Look, the ground floor again. And the top and the bottom 10 floors. See all that glass work that's being put in. You can just imagine the time and the special orders that have to be put in for this glass. And the work they've done on the exterior and the cladding, just amazing. And we'll take a look at the entire building from here too, just for those who might be interested in a different perspective of the building. You can see this here.